I got a question the other day from someone asking about how to approach a prospect who sounds really interested in hiring them, but is asking for examples of their work, asking for portfolio work samples. And this person who asked the question doesn't have any yet, not anything like really put together or that is in a shareable format. And so he's wondering, how do I address this? Like, what do I do? And this is a common scenario, especially for people who may be new in their business or maybe have switched focus and maybe you are trying to land clients doing a new thing and you don't yet have solid work samples or case studies or even testimonials about doing that particular work. It's a bit of a chicken and egg sort of scenario. So I want to give you, as I did him, some suggestions on how to approach this situation. There's basically 4 or 5 things that you could do in this particular situation. So again, the idea is that the client or the prospect, hopefully to be client, is interested, but they're asking for proof. Essentially, they're asking for proof. Have you done this work before? Can I see what you produced, right? Okay, so the first thing you can do is if you've had some experience doing the type of work that you are pitching, you can create anonymized case studies. In other words, if for whatever reason you're unable to share very detailed case studies where you're naming the actual client and providing, a level of detail that you often see in a case study, you can put together more quote unquote generic case studies that don't reveal the identifying details of the organization or the individual that you may have worked with. I do often advise clients on this because it's not uncommon to be in a situation where for various reasons you're unable to disclose. You just don't want to identify the client. So there's different ways you can do this, but essentially a case study, a very format for a case study is to describe what the challenge was, talk a little bit about your process and then the outcome. So that's how you can at least address a situation where you've done a little bit of the work before, but aren't able to disclose who specifically it's for. So the next thing that you can consider doing is working up a sample strategy. Now, I want you to be really careful about this approach because there's a fine line between providing some idea of strategic direction or some like reference to the solution that you would be providing without actually doing spec work. Okay, so spec work, at least in the creative field, is like you're going to actually do like a draft. You might do like a draft article, or you may even do a draft design or something like that in the hopes that the client will or the prospect will hire you once they see how awesome the work is. You don't want to do that. But there is a way to at least communicate from a high level what your overall approach would be and what your solution would be to their specific situation. And that would be a way to demonstrate that you do know what you're doing and you're ready to assist them. And you've got some idea of like how you might approach that. So again, be very careful with this, but there is a way to be able to provide a bit of a sample or at least demonstrate that you know what you're talking about. Okay, going back to the case studies, the anonymized case studies, another thing you can do is just gather up some testimonials from people you have worked with, maybe not on that particular type of work, but people who know you, can vouch for you from a professional standpoint, right? You don't need to get testimonials from your best friend or your mom. This is for professionals whom you've worked with. So colleagues, etc., and particularly those that can speak to your ability to communicate well, to manage a project, things that would reference the experience of working with you, how you are as a professional service provider. That's really what you're looking for. So you can have testimonials like that, and again, they could be anonymized as well. Or if you're getting testimonials from, let's say, a colleague who might be in a very, a higher level position, you could also indicate the role in which the person is who's given you the testimonial. Anything like that that can provide basically recommendations. You can do this inside LinkedIn. Certainly, there's the whole mechanism for that, but you can do it outside of LinkedIn as well and just informally. Depending on what the work is that you're doing for the prospect or want to be doing for the prospect, you might be able to demonstrate that on yourself. For example, I've got a client who is in earlier stages in her business, and she is in the process of developing for herself the very type of deliverables that she is offering for a couple of her other clients as she's working to build her portfolio around that. So if you're a writer, if you're a designer of any sort, if you are in a position where you provide deliverables, do that for yourself and basically lead by example. And that can be another way to demonstrate that you know what you're doing. And I also want to encourage you to just pay attention to how you're approaching the conversation with the client, the tools that you're using to communicate your ideas, and just all of the really all of the communication and all of that, to be very professional with it, right? That's going to go a long way toward ensuring and instilling some confidence in you and your abilities. And I can say this as being on the client side, because I've hired many different service providers over the years. And in addition to looking at what skills are they bringing, what experience do they have, I'm very much paying attention to what will it be like to work with this person based on how they're conducting themselves, how professional they are, how they're communicating. So those things are really important too. So don't count that out as another way to communicate your ability to help them, to work with them. And then finally, and this is really probably the biggest thing that you need to bring to the table, and that is your confidence. If you believe in yourself, if you know that this is work you can do, even if you haven't had a lot of practice doing it before, but you are certain you can figure this out, because maybe you look back on other times in your life when you're like, well, I didn't know the thing, but I figured it out and I did a darn good job at it. Lean into that, because your level of confidence will also go a long way with your prospect. All right, I hope that these tips help you in landing those clients and projects for which maybe you don't have a lot of experience yet, but you're getting there for that. And let me know how that goes for you. And let me know if there's other things that you have done when you have been approaching prospects and in that position when you haven't had a lot of that work example. Let me know if there's things that you have done that have worked for you. I'd love to hear about that. All right, hope to catch you in the next video. See you soon. Bye-bye.